Hey everybody, KC here. So we're just 2 weeks away from the National Grocers Association convention in Las Vegas, which means we're also 2 weeks away from the technology innovation tracks that are going to take place on the morning of February 23rd. And once again, as I've talked about this before, I've had the opportunity to curate and help facilitate those tracks. And today, I want to feature a conversation that I had with Sabrina Kieffer, who is the president of Phood Solutions. And Sabrina is going to be one of our panelists during the technology tracks. Phood Solutions focuses on food waste in a way that is largely invisible to the consumer, but can have enormous implications for the retailer. And I wanted to talk about that with her and a little bit about how maybe their technology could be made more visible to the shopper and why that might be advantageous to the retailer. The other thing we talked a little bit about is the notion of how retailers need to be thinking about technology and innovation. And she's a really interesting person to hear from about this because she has a real history in technology and in startups, but she's relatively new to the food business. So she has a different perspective on it that is really, really interesting. I think you'll enjoy it, particularly when she talks about the fact that what she thinks retailers need to be is more vulnerable to companies like hers. Because if they're more vulnerable, it means that there can be a greater intimacy between the retailer and the solution provider, which can lead to a much more advantageous and profitable relationship. It's a really interesting metaphor. It makes a lot of sense. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Sabrina Kieffer of Phood Solutions. Sabrina Kieffer, welcome to Morning News Beat.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate the fact that you're going to be part of the NGA Tech Track out in Las Vegas. So let's start by just explain a little bit of the Phood Solutions model. What does your company do?
Absolutely. So Phood is a technology company that has developed an AI-driven software and hardware that provides food retailers with visibility into their food waste, team behaviors, and product mix, resulting in reduced food and labor costs, increased sales, and ultimately increased profit margins. You might ask how we actually go about doing that for clients, but basically what we're able to do is that we are able to leverage data and insights through advanced computer vision to help grocers, again, reduce waste, increase efficiency, and ultimately increase their profit margins. And so we can tell clients, leveraging our hardware and software, what products are driving sales, what products are falling behind, and how to ultimately realize their highest profit margins.
So you said hardware and software. So you're not just a software solution that's residing on in other people's hardware.
That's correct.
How are retailers, or where in the store are retailers accessing your platform?
Yeah, so we have primarily been focused in fresh departments, and so a lot of clients are currently leveraging us in the back of house. And when it comes to the production and preparation of their fresh items, Phood chose really interesting story, sort of backstory about Phood. Our founder and CEO Luke Dang grew up on a farm in Connecticut, and they did maple syrup production, egg production, and was selling into restaurants, and obviously sort of saw firsthand how much waste was happening. And when he got to college, also saw how much waste was happening. And so the Phood was initially focused on actually college and universities. And we were initially servicing college and university commissaries. And when COVID hit and Luke saw what was sort of happening in the grocery space, he decided to pivot into the grocery industry and really figure out how he could offer a solution to help grocery stores scale their businesses more efficiently to deal with what was going on from the dynamics of COVID. And so he ultimately chose to focus on prepared foods and hot bars because of what all of the sort of waste that he recognized happening there. And so what happens is, again, most of our clients are using our technology back of house, where they are basically putting an item on our scale, which is recognized by a camera. And then based on the sort of computer vision, it recognizes what the image is. it gives the weight as it's going out to the floor. And then when it's brought back onto the floor, it actually shows how much was actually wasted. And then based on all information plus a couple insights from the client, we are able to tell them what their total shrink was per item, what actually sold, what based on sort of costing information, what their profit margins were, and so using that data, they're then able to make adjustments to their production planning, their inventory, their what they're putting out on the floor to make sure that they're sort of accommodating what their customers want the most.
Does it automatically then change the ordering that the company's doing, or is that a different functionality?
So it informs it. So we are right now actually in the process of working on those types of integrations, but they use the information that we provide them to inform and direct their ordering so that they can cut back and reduce items and inventory that they don't need to be producing based on the data that we're providing them with.
So let's just take, for example, a supermarket deli counter.
Yeah.
So the scale that they are using to put out meat is different, that you're providing is different than this. Is that different than the scale they're using to measure to weigh the meat that I'm ordering as a customer?
That's correct. And so it's a different piece of hardware, but I think something else we're thinking about as a company and in order to basically meet the needs of our clients, how could we also offer our software integrated into some of these existing solutions that they already have. But right now, the product is both the hardware and software piece. But I think the two things you really just sort of hit on some of the ways in which we're looking at expanding the business based on our clients' needs, because we know that they're looking to consolidate software and hardware, is how we can integrate into some of the existing hardwares, as well as how can we integrate in some of the existing software so we can really be that one-stop shop. With that said, even the product today is offering tremendous value to our clients. We've estimated that we've helped people identify about 350 million pounds of wasted food, which equates to about $32 million in total food costs. And so even with what we're doing today, we are showcasing a tremendous amount of value to our.
And that's just your clients. That's not all the companies, right?
That's just our clients, and we're in about 1,000 grocery stores across the U.S. And so there's a lot more opportunity here.
Is the Obviously requires an investment by retailers into the equipment. They're buying right now the hardware and the software. If you had a software package that could be integrated into the hardware, that obviously would bring down the cost of entry a lot lower.
Absolutely.
What kind of ROI in terms of timing do you guys project out? Because
Yeah,
that's
so
the first question you're getting.
yeah, absolutely. So our model works in the sense that we actually offer a free trial. So we it's sort of a no-brainer for clients as long as they sort of establish this as a priority for their business. And our understanding is that increasing profitability is obviously a priority for every grocery store, every business across every industry. So what we do is we offer a free trial, and we typically tell clients to pick a handful of stores that we can pilot in. We then use like the first 60 days to set baselines and really understand sort of and validate what the problem is. And then based on that data, we come up with what we believe the ROI will be. And then we guarantee that. And so once they've decided that this is the ROI that they are like internally okay with, and that this is something that they want to prioritize, and we move to contract, we guarantee that ROI. We've seen upwards of 5-to-1 ROI for some of our clients. But there's, again, never a case in which clients are not actually making back their investment on our software and hardware.
Let's broaden the conversation a little bit and to take it in a direction that I think we'll certainly talk about at NGA. See, your solution is invisible to the consumer. As a shopper, I have no idea that it exists. And yet, it seems to me that there's an opportunity for retailers to actually make it visible to me to do two things. First of all, to make the argument, hey, we use this technology. And by the way, I think this could apply to a lot of companies, a lot of technologies. We're using this technology and we are saving money. And by the fact that we're saving money here, it allows us to either lower prices or at least not raise prices over here. Number one. So we're good for you that way. And the other thing is that in your case, certainly, you can establish the fact that this has a sustainability component to it, which makes me as a store, if I'm using it, a good community citizen. And it seems to me that that is the thing that retailers ought to be thinking about when talking to your company or other companies like yours. How do we take the invisible technologies and make them visible to the consumer because then it becomes a differential advantage for us as a retailer?
Absolutely. I think it's a really important point. And a lot of the customers that we're currently working with are focused on sustainability as really top line initiatives for their companies. And so I think some of the ways in which we're exploring doing this with clients is how we can create, white papers and publish things that are more visible to the end customer to showcase some of the results that they're seeing from using our program and our product. So that I think those are some of the things that we're working on right now. What is the actual data that they feel comfortable sharing so that we can provide that to the end customer? I think through just putting out news and information through publications like yourself or just generally doing press releases around some of the success that they're seeing in the program, I think would be absolutely something that their consumers could see and have more visible to them. And then I think some of the other things that we can do is how we actually make that a little bit more part of their the ethos of their organizations and a little bit more clear in terms of when a consumer comes there that they understand that that's what's important to that business through how they're branding their company.
I'm curious. You've worked, so you personally, you're relatively new to the food business, right? Before you worked for a number of startups, you worked for a number of technology companies, largely in the sort of that were in the communication space. Just to put it broadly, I'm curious. New to the food industry, I'm curious when in interacting with people in this sector. Do you see any commonalities, or is this such a difference? Does it blow your mind how different this segment of the business is than so many other segments?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously there's, a lot of nuances and, I think the way in which I've been able to get up to speed on this industry in particular is really just leveraging, the expertise of some of my colleagues that I work with that have spent, years in the grocery space operating and working in the stores themselves as well as talking to individuals like yourself and doing my own research. But really, I think the commonality and the thing I've been focused on most in my career is how do I help businesses scale and do it in a really efficient way. And I think for the most part, a lot of our grocery clients are looking for that. They want to become more operationally efficient so that they can ultimately figure out ways to save money. And so I think that's really the commonality. And I think that the sort of trend today is really how you leverage technology to do those things. And so really, I think those are sort of the commonalities. It's just all about how you scale efficiently and then how you leverage technology to help you be a more efficient business.
Well, I actually think that makes you and your company more valuable to retailers because you are bringing a different perspective. You're bringing out the perspective that maybe they're not seeing. I'm curious, when you talk to retailers, and I'm not asking you to critique your customers or potential customers, but is there a question that maybe they're not asking you that you think they should be asking? Because maybe they're asking questions that you think, if you were thinking strategically, you might not want to put as big a focus on that.
Yeah, I'd say yeah, the biggest thing is thinking about like the ways in which we can because we're a startup, we have the opportunity and the ability to be adaptable and flexible. And so sometimes I wish our customers were asking were sharing a little bit more about what their key problems and pain points were so that we could develop the right technology solution to help them. And so we really mostly want to be technology partners to our clients and don't want to be limited in what we're currently offering them today. And I think oftentimes people are looking for one solution to solve one problem, and we view ourselves as a company that can be a partner to a lot of these clients to really help develop a lot of custom solutions to make their businesses more efficient.
That's interesting. You know, one of the broader themes or theses that we're going to be focusing on in the tech tracks is the notion that the industry has to find ways for retailers, especially independents, but not just independents, to to put a greater emphasis on technology innovation, but then also work with companies like yours and also funding mechanisms like venture capitalists, things like that, to find a way to make the retail business more accessible and even more fast moving so they want to put the money behind it. That there's I think it's one of our sort of working premises that there's a disconnect between the two. And that if retailers are not going to be left behind, leaving them vulnerable to disruption by who knows, some company we've never heard of today, that they've got to figure out a way to close that gap. Does that make sense to you?
100% completely resonates. And I think like it might sound sort of straightforward. It's how can they be more vulnerable with technology partners so that if they are able to share what those problems are, that we can help sort of provide the solutions. And so I think again that's where like, how do we break through that piece so that we have just a more intimate understanding of some of their current priorities and problems to then provide the technology that's going to really support that.
I don't know. I think if you look at a lot of these retailers, been doing this a long time. If you look at them and say, we need to be more, you need to be more vulnerable so we can be more intimate, some of them are going to go, whoa. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that that's a really good observation. And that, yeah, they have to let their guard down a little bit and think about things they've never thought about before, as opposed to just going for the obvious, I've got a hammer so everything looks like a nail.
Right. And I think even for us, like how do we honestly even as a business, something the CEO and I are constantly focused on is like how do we also position ourselves so that clients trust us to basically be that partner, and how do we build the trust and credibility with them that we understand what their problems are because we have people on our team that have like experienced those same things. And then how can we help you develop solutions to fix those problems?
I think that's a great insight. Sabrina, listen, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas. I think the tech tracks are going to be great, and I appreciate the fact that you're going to be contributing to our morning's efforts.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. Take care.